people of the universe and the world. That was kind of a geeky statement, maybe, I don't know. Hi guys. I'm really liking this. I'm really liking talking and thinking, knowing that I have this video. Granted, it's only been a week. Knowing that I have this video or these videos to think about, I guess the one thing I've noticed is when I do think about things a little bit more, at least in the past week, I've been trying to think a little bit more about how to, everyone has an idea or ideas and things that they think about, but I've definitely been a little bit more mindful sometimes about how would I explain that? How would I say that? How would I convey that? So I've been thinking a little bit about that, which maybe might be a good thing to kind of work on that. Granted, I'm doing these videos just because I like them, and I like doing this, and this is a healthy mental exercise. And plus I think, you know, I might be able to connect with people this way that I would normally connect with, and ideally for the better. But because of that, I am doing it primarily just for the interest and because I like it. I'm really not in a rush to do anything that anyone would want me to do. I'm just going to do these until I don't want to do them anymore, and then I'm just going to not do them. So I'm not in too much of a hurry to kind of rush these. I do notice that I talk quite a bit, and that the first several videos are quite long, and it's kind of a pain because it takes a long time to upload them. But aside from that, I do know what I want to say, or start off with. And I primarily only really had one thing I was thinking about. On the Halloween video or whatever, I was talking about how I-5, we repave it and we change it consistently to keep up with the wear, kind of like our body. But I was talking about how the infrastructure, the turns, and the bends, and the straight lines, and what it looks like from space doesn't really ever change. If it does, it's very minor. And I was thinking about how that governs our thoughts, our personalities, what we are, who we are. Is that kind of initial construction? You know, how much of that is related to our genetics and early environments. But then I was thinking about the road. I was like, well, let's think about it. If you take I-5, for example, at least in Oregon, it's straight for a really long time, and you know, I do fly. I like to fly planes, and when you're in the air and you're looking over the Willamette Valley, I-5 straight from Eugene to Portland because there's nothing. It's straight because it's flat. There's nothing there. It's the valley, the Willamette Valley. So that's why it's straight, because it can go in a straight line, and then the only time a road would ever turn is if there's something in the way, and it has to go around it. So the direction of the road and the road that it is has very little to do with people wanting the road to look like that. It has only everything to do about engineering that road to fit its environment, to fit the conditions of where the mountains are, or the rivers, or the valleys, or the coastline. And so that made me go, oh, and think a little bit deeper about it. And then, you know, I was just thinking more about how these roads are conditioned and created solely by the constraints of, well, several constraints, but the constraints primarily of the geography, and then also the constraints of economics. You know, how much does it cost to do this? What about this bridge versus, you know, how much, like literally, how much will it cost to build this bridge that's over this wide expanse of the river versus, you know, making the road longer and having it to go down the river a little bit more and cross at a shallower point or a more narrow point. And then we come back here. And then I started to look at the map, and I started looking at all kinds of roads. And once I started looking at it that way, it made a lot more sense as to why they have their thing. You know, and it's common in engineering, at least, well, everything, not just engineering, but I think because engineers make everything. But everything you see on our planet, that's not a tree, it's not naturally placed there, that was someone's job. Like, someone had to do that. It was either someone's job that they got paid for, or unfortunately they were forced to do that by some extreme measure. I mean, I don't want to go into that, but everything exists, like this camera, the stand, the walls, the computer, wherever you're sitting, whatever iPad or tablet or phone or PC you're watching on. Someone had to make that, and not just the whole thing, every single aspect. Like someone had to design the button, you know, on the top of the camera. Someone had to spend time thinking about the weave of their shorts, or if someone had to spend time trying to prepare your meal today if you went out to eat. Someone was paid to do that. Someone had to consciously engineer that. And it was engineered to fit within a set of constraints, a set of requirements. Which anyone who's in engineering at least knows a lot about requirements and design, implementation, testing, the entire process. I do think software developers, because that's what I am, software engineers, spend a little bit more time on the design, implementation, and testing process. I think they talk about it a little bit more often, principally because, just from a philosophical perspective, well, it's not really philosophical, but the interesting thing about being a software engineer is that you technically have instant gratification for most things. Like, yeah, some people might complain that it might take 3 days to compile a really huge code base, and I can only imagine people when computers were really slow back in the 70s and 80s when I was starting out. Compilation time has been achingly painful. Now, you know, compilation, like, you know, what I work on is over 1 million lines of code, and it compiles in 6 minutes. And that's nothing, really. It's a very fast computer, so that helps. But still, it's instant gratification where, like, if you're engineering a bridge, right, you have to design this bridge, you have to study it, and you can't test it until it's built. You have to build a whole bridge. A whole bridge. Not just one person was involved, many people were involved, the earth was involved, and the weather, and there's a lot of money that goes into construction, and not just money, but the management of costs and wastes. Entire software applications are built just to manage construction costs. And so that's what I thought about, is why roads are where they are, and that it's the constraint of the environment. So then I was thinking back to how I talked about, like, the planet and how maybe life evolves on the planet depending on the constraints of where it is in relation to its star in the universe and what kind of moons it has. And I'm not saying I went kind of a full circle, but I was like, so how much do these constraints have over us or you in your life? Well, the one difference between a computer or a road or a bridge is that we have free will, because we're organic. We have this thing called consciousness, or at least components of consciousness. Dogs have consciousness, fish have consciousness. Every animal technically has some form of consciousness within reason. Consciousness is really just an awareness. The components of that awareness is, you know, obviously the senses, and then you have to go into, well, what about emotion? What about intelligence? What about creativity? What about, you know, this or that? And that's what we don't really know a lot about it, if at all, when we get down to brass tacks. But that was interesting to me. I mean, because a dog definitely, I mean, anyone who owns a dog or a pet of any kind knows that they get jealous, especially if you have 2 or 3 of them and one gets food and the other 2 don't. Like, they obviously have jealous, like they obviously have the same types of neurons or some kind of chemical signal that's similar to us, that's, you know, that signals emotion or fear or greed, hunger. Hunger is definitely a feeling. It's chemicals in your body saying, hey, your stomach's like, hey, I'm empty. Send a signal to the brain that sends this chemical, you know, within the brain that says, hey, you should start thinking about eating, and you start salivating. I mean, just look at I think it's Pavlov, the dogs, the bell. I think that's the right name, the guy, but I think you know what I'm talking about. That's just a chemical reaction in the body of the dog. You know, all a brain is just neurochemical signals, just neuroelectrical signals, neurochemical electrical signals. I don't know what the right word is. I didn't major in neurophysics or biology, one of those things. But that's kind of interesting. That's really interesting to me because we have free will. And what component of other animals have free will and don't? I mean if you take a look at our, well, Homo erectus is the most direct thing that we descended from most recently, but if you take a look at a monkey or some kind of ape, yeah, there might be a few traits that they have that we lost, and there's definitely a lot of things that we gained. But our genetic code's like what, 98% similar, and we're in the 90th percentile of similarity for a lot of things, not just primates, a lot of other different types of animals. So that means there's a lot of baseline genetic code, okay, that has to be the same, because it is. It's in there, we've done it, we've tested it, it's there. And so that's interesting, because I'm curious about those constraints as well. There has to be some large component of the constraints of biology, in terms of our biomechanics, how we move, that we really have absolutely no control over. And yet, we have free will. And what choice does a dog have for free will? I don't know. Or dolphins are definitely quite intelligent. No, we don't really know what kind of free will they have. What really is free will? I think at least part of it would have to be it being and that's the test, is putting in a mirror in front of the animal, and if the animal can discern that the other animal in the mirror is itself. There you go. Self-awareness. The ability to observe your surroundings, take in the input that's around you, and be aware of your singular identity within your environment. So, I was thinking about that, just talking about that. I also finally fully got my, the YouTube's up, the Twitter is up, the Facebook is up. I haven't heard from anyone yet. I mean, I got some retweet, and I posted a video, and all the guy said was weird. It's like, okay. I asked what he thought, and he just said weird. It's like, okay, that's weird. He's just like weird. He just, you didn't ask me anything, and I'd really like to start hearing from people. Granted, if anyone starts watching these things on any regular basis, I'm sure people will look back at this video and older ones and go, you weren't getting anything then, man. You're getting, people, asking you questions, and hopefully my future videos have responses, because someone would like to watch some of these, at least. And I'd like to answer the questions. Send me questions, send me ideas, send me things you're kind of talking about. And I know in the last week at least, I've talked a lot about the universe or science and kind of, big think questions that maybe aren't that big think, but they're kind of broad, very unspecific, and they're definitely related to science and, cosmos stuff, really macro things, philosophy-ish things. But I would love to talk about anything, just honestly, ask me something about what I think about pumpkin pie. I'll talk about pumpkin pie for I swear to gosh, I swear, if someone asks me, hey, what do I think of pumpkin pie? I'll make an entire video for just one full day about pumpkin pie. It doesn't have to just be pumpkin pie. Toy Story. I love the movie Toy Story. My favorite movie ever. Ooh, as a childhood kid, it still hasn't really changed. Top 5 movie ever, Toy Story. Talk about Toy Story, I'll talk about, honestly, and nothing is off limits. I'm being really serious. You gotta keep it reasonable. I'm not gonna talk about illegal stuff. If someone's really interested in what I think about, just be smart. And if I don't think I want to talk about it, it'd have to be pretty extreme, but I'm not. I'll just dude, that's just stupid. I'm not gonna, no. But within reason, I'd love to talk about anything. Just ask me any kind of question, and hopefully the next video will be a little bit of that. I have a review. Well, it's not don't take it as a review. Don't say it's the review of the movie. It's The Martian. I saw the movie Martian. I saw it, I think the first or second, yeah, definitely the first night or second Friday. The Friday it came out, and I loved it. I have a strong set of things that I want to mention about it that I really liked, and especially that compared to Interstellar. So I'm going to talk about The Martian specifically tomorrow. And, you know, that'll be a more of a specific thing of conversation, or a conversation of something. So send me things, just post stuff. I mean, just post stuff on the Facebook, the Twitter's there, I have my own website, you know, I have a submit form, and all that stuff. Just ask me anything. I'd like to just generate some more content, generate a feedback, and really kind of create a continuum. So I'll talk to you guys later.